FBI gaslights America over Twitter files. Now, this is sort of the backdrop explanation to the Twitter file thread we're going to cover today. So I'm starting backwards, but I'm going to start with the article first. So let's read a little bit on the article. Just a second here. Now, FBI gaslights America over Twitter files. And let's read a little bit. This is Newsweek. The FBI is gaslighting the American people over the stunning, if unsurprising, evidence that it engaged in a conspiracy with big tech to silence wrong thinkers in violation of the First Amendment, as the Twitter files have revealed. Twitter files. People acting like the Twitter files still aren't a big deal. And there's just been a number of bombshells, not just the Hunter Biden either. So this is the latest on the Twitter files. Meanwhile, in attacking those who refuse to be gaslit, the Bureau is also telegraphing that it would respond to Congress investigating its hyper politicization and weaponization with relentless information war. Let me say that again. Meanwhile, in attacking those who refuse to be gaslit, the Bureau, that's the FBI, is also telegraphing that it would respond to Congress investigating its hyper-politicization and weaponization with relentless information warfare. The gaslighting comes in the preemptive law enforcement agency Move Along, Nothing to See Here response to the Twitter files. It stated that correspondence between the FBI and Twitter show nothing more than examples of our traditional, long-standing, and outgoing federal government and private sector engagement. The FBI, it says, quote, provides critical information to the private sector in an effort to allow them to protect themselves and their customers, end quote. That's the FBI gaslighting. And we can listen to this article too, but I think I'm going to... Here is the kind of conduct the FBI wants you to believe is completely normal. Now, I don't need to go through it here because now that I read part of that article and we're going to come back to the article, let's go through one. Let's show one of the threads. Now, this thread here is one of the threads that Nick and I have been trying to get around to cover. And it just hasn't happened. This is about a week old. And it's the Twitter files, how Twitter let the intelligence community in. FBI gaslights America over Twitter files. And you heard their response was like, this is just normal. This is normal engagement we're doing with a private sector business so that they can help protect their customers and themselves. That's all. So let's read a little bit and see if that's the case. This thread, the Twitter files, how Twitter let the intelligence community in. And this is number 2. Yeah, he got him number. Okay. In August 2017, when Facebook decided to suspend 300 accounts with suspected Russian origin, Twitter wasn't worried. Its leaders were sure they didn't have a Russian problem or a Russia problem. 3, quote, we didn't see a big correlation, end quote. Another quote, no larger patterns. Another quote here, Facebook may take action on hundreds of accounts and we may take action on 25. And then they show the receipts here with all of those quotes. 4, keep the focus on Facebook. Twitter was so sure they had no Russia problem, execs agreed the best PR strategy was to say nothing on the record and quietly hurl reporters at Facebook. Here's that one of the headlines that he shows here. Per our discussion, one, we can be more candid, pushing the book back to Facebook on background. And two, issuing a statement brings us closer to Facebook, their vulnerabilities on this issue, and the follow-up stories on Russia. So they had no problem. Let's continue. 5, quote, Twitter is not the focus of inquiry in Russian election meddling right now. The spotlight is on Facebook, end quote, wrote a public policy VP, Colin Crowell. And then there's the receipt there. 6, in September 2017, after a cursory review, Twitter informed the Senate it would suspend 22 possible Russian accounts and 179 others with possible links to those accounts, amid a larger set of roughly 27 suspects manually examined. 2,700 examined, 22 possible Russian accounts, and 179 with possible links to those accounts. Okay. 7, receiving these meager results, a furious Senator Mark Warner of Virginia, ranking Democrat of the Intelligence Committee, had an immediate press conference to denounce Twitter's report as frankly inadequate on every level. And there goes the guy. Twitter briefing to U.S. congressional investigators disappointing Senator Mark Warner. The pressure begins. You're not finding what we want you to find, is what he's essentially saying. You're not finding what we need you to find. Eight, irony. Muse Crowell, the day after, I'm sorry, it's probably part of the rest, but Crowell, the day after Warner's presser, after receiving an email circulation from Warner's re-election campaign, asked for $5 or whatever you can spare, laugh out loud, replied General Counsel Sean Edgett. I think that's how you say the name. And then they show the receipt here, where Colin, we're only got a short amount of time before Saturday's crucial end of quarter fundraising deadline, and they're just showing the fundraiser email. Now, 9, keep producing material. After meeting with congressional leaders, Crowell wrote, quote, Warner has political incentive to keep this issue at top of the news. Warner has political incentive to keep this issue at the top of the news, maintain pressure on us and rest of industry to keep producing material for them. And there is the receipt for that quote. This is crazy. And here's another one. 10, taking their cues from Hillary Clinton. Crowell added, Dems were taking cues from Hillary Clinton, who that week said, quote, it's time for Twitter to stop dragging its heels and live up to the fact that its platform is being used as a tool for cyber warfare. So Twitter examines the 27 accounts, come back and said 2,700 accounts, and come back and says, well, it's this very small amount. Then the public pressure by politicians and ex-politicians like Warner and now Hillary Clinton. 11, in growing anxiety over its PR problem, Twitter formed a Russia task force to proactively investigate. 12, the Russia task force started mainly with data shared from counterparts at Facebook centered around accounts supposedly tied to Russia Internet Research or IRA, but the search for Russia perfidy was a dud. And they show here how Wednesday, October 11, 2017, this is the executive update. We have initial list of suspicious advertising content. A lot of benign content. Need to further investigate before we draw a conclusion. Continue. 13. On October 13, 2017, quote, no evidence of coordinated approach. All of the accounts found seem to be lone wolf type accounts. Different timing spent targeting in ads under, okay. Then the receipt there. 14, October 18th, here's a quote. First round of RU investigation, and that's Russia something investigation. 15 high-risk accounts. 15. 3 of which have connections with Russia, although 2 are retweets. 1 connection with Russia, 2 retweeted it. 15 high-risk accounts. October 20th, quote, built new version of the model that is lower precision but higher recall, which allows to catch more. Let's see that quote again. Built new version of model that is lower precise, is not as precise, but higher recall, is going to catch more people, which allow to catch more people. We aren't seeing substantially more suspicious accounts even with this. We expect to find 20 with a small amount spent. Then they show the receipt. Here's October 23rd, quote, finished with investigation, 2,500 full manual account reviews. We think this is exhaustive. 32 suspicious accounts, and only 17 of those are connected to Russia. Only 2 of those have significantly spent, one of which is Russia Today. Remaining. Just amazing. Then they show, let me pause here. To me, this is amazing that they're essentially being forced in a corner to find a problem that's not there. But the FBI gaslights as if this is what goes on all the time. Just astonishing here. We'll read a couple of more, then we'll move on to the last and final segment here. Twitter's search finding only 2 significant accounts, one of which is Russia Today, was based on the same data that later inspired panic headlines like Russia influence reached 126 million through Facebook alone. And there is the guy pushing it. Number 18, just amazing. The failure of, quote, Russia task force to produce material worsened the company's PR crisis. They weren't able to produce material, so it worsened their crisis. In the weeks after Warner's presser, a torrent of stories sourced to the Intel committee poured into the news. So all these sourced, supposed sourced committee, Intel committee poured into these stories. An example being Political's October 13th, Twitter deleted data potentially crucial to Russia probes. You see how the Intel community and politicians use their journalist context to put pressure on Twitter here. Journalism is truly dead in the United States. It's truly, truly dead. And let me read a couple more, and then we'll end here. Quote, where Twitter, a contractor for the FSB, they could not have built a more effective disinformation platform. John Hopkins professor, and Intel committee expert, quote unquote expert, Thomas Reed told Politico, and they show that quote in the article there. As Congress threatened costly legislation and Twitter began was subject to be more bad press fueled by the committee, the company changed its tune about the smallness of Russia's problem. They changed their tune. 22, quote, "Hi guys, just passing along for awareness, the write-up here from the Washington Post on the potential legislation that may affect our political advertising." Oh, sorry. Same thing. 23 I'm on now. In Washington weeks after the first briefing, Twitter leaders were told by Senate staff that, quote, "Senator Warner feels like tech industry was in denial for months," added an Intel staffer. Quote, "Big interest in political article about deleted accounts." This is amazing to me, and I think I'm going to end it there with this, that Twitter looks for an issue, don't find an issue, tell the Intel community and politicians. Politicians put pressure through their media contacts, and voila, now Twitter says we have a problem.